Good morning, I'm Ben. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to pick up where we left off with our SuperPro bushing install on our 1984 C4 Corvette. Last time we went through the rear suspension, we knocked out the rear suspension bushings. It went super smooth, super good. We're going to do something a little more complicated today, which is the front suspension. Not to worry, we're going to get through this quickly and efficiently, and I'm going to show you how to do it. So let's get right on into it. First things first, we need to gain access to our upper control arm. We do that by removing these plastic shrouds that cover up our wheel wells. Everything here is either a 10 mil or a T30 Torx bit. So first thing I'm going to do is knock off this upper ball joint. I got to take out a cotter pin and I believe an 18 millimeter castle nut. And then we got to get in and take off these two 18s here. We've got to be careful because there's shims behind here. So when we take this loose, we're going to take this whole A-arm assembly off. And we don't want to lose these or disorganize them when they come off. Ooh, look how sloppy this is. Okay, so we have 3 shims in the front. And it looks like 2 shims in the rear. These are kind of horseshoe shaped, and they sit up against the frame, and you just want to make sure you don't lose them. Boom. So, upper A-arm is now out. This bolt was totally loose. That wasn't my doing. It looks like at some point someone's done some polyurethane bushings. These ball joints have definitely seen better days. I'm not replacing those this time around, but I'm definitely gonna have to come back and retouch on that. But so let's show you how to get these out and our new bushings in. Unfortunately, I haven't found a way to do these upper A-arms on a bench vise yet. That said, it's still a super handy tool for doing our initial prep before we rotate over to the press. There's a couple things that we need to look at first, but let's start by knocking off these 2 big nuts. I got a 30 millimeter socket that I'm going to use. If you look at how this is set up, you can see there's this big metal washer here, and that keeps this center section entrapped in here. So the only way you can force it out is this way. Now that also means it can only be assembled in that same direction. Now I've turned it over, but because it can only be assembled in a certain direction, it's wise to mark everything on its direction. I find it a lot easier to move the control arm off the old bushings if you cut the flared parts off. This center one here, the entrapped one, is probably one of the more important ones, but also one of the hardest ones to get off. So I'm definitely going to try and score it up as much as I can and get it much off as possible, because if I get this, the whole thing will basically just slip out once I put some pressure on it. We have a 20-ton press right now. Now, I'm not saying you need 20 tons, but I haven't come up with a way to do this without a press yet. It's a great tool. You'll use it probably not very often, but man is it handy. Because we have that washer and trapping and everything, we got to push down. And we got our arrows marking everything down. I have a slightly crushed aluminum pipe that I'm using to support the A-arm down low. And we're going to try and smush this thing out. I tried to get that in one take, but you know. Okay, here we go. We got one of the bushings off. And now we can remove this whole shaft, and we'll probably take this one off on the bench vise. Can't be mad about that. So thankfully, some detailed instructions are supplied with the kit on how to do these, because there really is only one way to disassemble them and assemble them. Now, I found it important to write which bushing went where on the control arm, so I got it right the first time. So we got the 459 over here. That needs to be installed first, because this is all going to be trapped. So we're going to install 459 bushing by itself. Then we're going to assemble this together with the bushing installed. And then we are going to press in 460 bushing with the whole mechanism assembled. We'll put our nuts on the outside and we'll be done. Now, I did spend a good bit of time freaking out about this in advance, because these bushings don't look super correct at first, and if you look at the packaging, it says 88 to 90. So I was really scratching my head. I did find out that these are all the same for all the C5s, or for all the C4s, the bushings at least. So let's start with 459. Now, conceptually, between left and right, this can be really tricky. I do really recommend you put arrows and your part numbers on here. As far as installation of these goes, it's considerably harder than it was on the rear suspension. So we're going to lube these up really good, and we're just going to make it happen. Yes. Okay, see what I mean? That was considerably harder. Obviously a much firmer bushing than the ones used on the rear, which would make sense because the ones on the rear need to have side-to-side articulation far more than these ones. I don't know what the science behind it all is, but we got it in. Okay, so now we take this piece, slip it in through the front, definitely get this guy here, boom, and trapped. So our 460 bushing only has a lip on one side. That's going to make things a little easier. I actually am not sure how tight to make these. I haven't worried about it. Do you know what the torque spec is for these control arm nuts? Please chime in with the comments, because this is one of those parts where I've just kind of been making it up as I go with the intentions of going back over it. And there, we just SuperPro'd an upper control arm bushing for my 1984 Corvette. I hope this has been informative for you guys. I'm gonna throw this back on the car, gonna try and knock out the lower, and go home. I'm gonna throw this front upper A-arm pretty much just as it came off before I take off the lower A-arm. This is gonna be part of the support, so I'll get it back on, and we should have a pretty good drive in bed afterwards. Much firmer, feels tighter, just feels good. Now what makes removing the lower control arm different, and now I wouldn't even say that the lower control arm is harder than the upper control arm. The upper is definitely complicated, but the disassembly from the car part is a little more complicated, just because on the lower you have to deal with this big leaf spring coming all the way across. All that is pushing down on the suspension, and the shock is holding it up. So as you undo the shock and all these other components in the ball joint, the whole thing's going to want to fly down on you. So you got to support it. And remember, if you're supporting it here, you got to support it in the rear too. Because when all that pressure comes down, it's going to push down on this control arm, and that's going to give, in my case on a lift, positive pressure up, which could potentially flip the car. First rule of working on a Vette: don't flip the Vette. Vettes are very flippy. C4s seem a little more stable than C5s and C6s, and C7s, and especially C8s. But that said, take your precautions, you won't have a problem. We are going to knock off this lower control arm, do our bushings, and see how it feels. First thing we're going to do is disconnect this ball joint, and we'll be able to lower it down some. Then we're going to disconnect this. That's going to disconnect our strut, our shock, and our sway bar all in one piece. This plate here, it's also going to come off, and pretty much all this stuff is 13s. Then we get to our 15s that are control arm bolts, and it should all slip out and we can get to work. sometimes a ball joint makes it personal. We got there. The process for the lower control arms isn't terribly different from any of the other ones. Basically do the whole thing on the bench vise. I'm going to cut off the ends, and then I'm going to cradle it and drive it out with probably a socket. Okay, one down. Let's get this other one out. Okay, can't be mad about that. Actually, I'm furious. Got them both out. I'm gonna go throw a bucket of water on this, and we'll drive in the new bushings, get it installed, and be done. All right, so it's a little cleaner, not perfect, because like I said, don't want to get the ball joint all wet with parts washer. So we're gonna drive in. New bushings are identical. There's a big end, there's a small end. Small end goes in first. These are still a little bit harder than other things, but these will go in not too bad. Once those are in, install the sleeve, done. So let's take care of a couple. Aha! It's easy once you get it. But man, getting it with these is tough. And that's how you SuperPro a C4 Corvette. Okay, oh yeah, you're there. Let's get this on, let's go for a drive. Reassembly is pretty much everything in reverse. I'm not gonna lie to you, filming makes the whole process take way longer, and editing makes the whole process look way faster. This is a tedious job, especially on the fronts here. Very rewarding when it's done, obviously. We're gonna find that out soon enough. But I am so looking forward to having one of these more tedious jobs done. Especially since we're taking care of suspension, and it's just gonna make transitioning into a big power build better. I've always done it backwards. I've always chased power and then tried to make everything else work. And let's do this one a little different, shall we? Alright, so tonight we installed SuperPro bushings on the 84C Corvette. You could definitely say this restoration slash race build is coming along. It's so satisfying to have that done. So let me know what you guys want to see next. Thank you for watching. If you found this informative or entertaining or motivational in any way, or just because you feel like it, please give me a like, give me a subscribe, and yeah, let me know what you think down below in the comments. Have a good night, y'all. Thank you. Sorry guys, it's all experimental. Probably won't even see this footage. Okay, let's watch Ben break down.